Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and stopping by today for our weekly intel report for the 8th of February, for the week of the 8th of February. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that's tuning in today from around the world. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and, again, taking some time out of your day to get caught up on everything that's going on in the world. Big shout out to everybody that's tuning in on Twitch today. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by over on Twitch. Big shout outs to Patty Whack, Miss Tiger Eye, and all of our mods that are in the live chat today, helping out, keeping you guys tame over there. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention, to get this information into the hands of more people. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It's the only way to get access to our live chat over on the YouTube channel. It's also the only way it's the best way, I should say, to support the channel. It's not the only way, but it's the best way to support the channel is to hit that subscribe button. We're coming at you guys a little bit early today. Usually we come at you at around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're coming at you at noon Eastern Standard Time today, and today's going to be a significantly reduced report. It's going to be a lot shorter than our normal 2 to 3 hour block of reporting. I'm going to try to squeeze it into an hour because I have quite a busy day here on my end ahead of me, so I'm going to try to get everything. We have a lot of information to go through, and I'm going to try to condense everything down as best as I can. A lot of news this week. It has been an extremely busy news week here, and I want to try to touch on all of the major topics from over the week. Make sure to comment and share, guys. Sharing this stream is the best way to get this information into the hands of more people, besides smashing that like button and getting the algorithm's attention, of course. Also, a little side note, I am a little sick, so if I have to pause occasionally during this report, I ask you guys to please bear with me. For those of you that don't know, we are dual streaming on Twitch and YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube and maybe you want to go join us on Twitch, you can do so over there. If you're following along on Twitch and maybe YouTube's more your thing, you can always hop over onto the YouTube to catch us over there. If you haven't already, join our Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below. It's the best place to not only join the community discussion, but to get up-to-date, real-time information on what's going on, not just in the war in Ukraine, but for varying different global security threats. We have all sorts of channels over there set up to track different reporting, and people over there are constantly providing their own community aggregated reports and intel. It's a great place to get information. I highly recommend you guys go and join that. You can find a link to that in the description below. No live chat poll this evening. We'll be doing one next week, but I'm not doing one on today's stream. Kayuka, I forgot Kayuka. Totally forgot about the account. I see you guys reminding me in the live chat there. Yeah, we cannot forget Kayuka, one of our live chat moderators over on the YouTube channel, but also one of our biggest power posters over there on the Discord server. So to jump right into it, we're going to start off the show with our Ukraine updates. Before I do so, though, I'm going to switch over to our maps here, so we can take a look at the current situation along the front lines in Ukraine. We have quite a few different maps here showing the situation in Ukraine. One of my favorites here is our Deep State live map here, which again shows kind of troop movements, and it shows kind of the status here of that front line in Ukraine. This is one of my new favorites. It shows all of the different units here and where they are located along that front line. John Bull, thank you so much for tuning in today with that super chat. Says, cheers, hope you feel better soon. I hope I feel better soon as well. Without further ado, we're going to get right into the main updates here for Ukraine. It is currently day 350 of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Vladimir Zelensky has arrived in the UK on his first visit since Russia's invasion to address Parliament and to meet with the Prime Minister. And Ukrainian troops being trained by British Armed Forces. So not only is he there to meet with the Prime Minister and discuss topics related to the war in Ukraine, but he's also meeting with Ukrainian troops that are being trained by British Armed Forces currently in the UK. Sunak, the Prime Minister, will expand the training offered by the UK to include fighter jet pilots and Marines, ensuring Ukraine has a military able to defend its interests well into the future. King Charles III will hold an audience with Zelensky. The audience between the king and Ukrainian parliament will take place at the Buckingham Palace this afternoon. Britain, meanwhile, has added 15 new designations to its Russia-related sanction list, including 6 entities providing military equipment such as drones for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The sanctions will also target 8 individuals and 1 entity connected to financial networks that help, quote, maintain wealth and power among Kremlin elites. Zelensky is expected to visit Brussels on Thursday, Reuters is reporting, citing in a press release from a European Union diplomat. The Ukrainian president was also reported to be planning a trip to meet EU leaders in person at a summit and address the European Parliament in an extraordinary session. Ahead of the UK visit, Zelensky urged partners on Wednesday to counter the International Olympic Committee's exploration of options to permit Russian athletes to participate in the 2024 Paris Olympics. Meanwhile, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, made clear she did not want a Russian delegation at next year's Games. Her remarks came after five Olympic committees in the Nordic region, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Norway, urged the International Olympic Committee on Tuesday to ban Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials from participating in international sports. Russia said on Wednesday that work to unblock Russian exports under the Black Sea grain deal were, quote, unsatisfactory, accusing the EU of failing to deliver on its promises. The TASS Russian news agency had reported. The comments refer to UN-brokered agreement between Moscow and Kyiv that aimed to free up grain exports held up at Black Sea ports by the war in Ukraine. Also here, the latest update from UK's Ministry of Defense says since Russia withdrew its forces from the west bank of the Dnieper River in November, skirmishing and reconnaissance has continued on the network of islands compromising the Dnipro Delta. It is highly unlikely that Russia will attempt an assault crossing the Dnipro, the update said. It would likely be extremely complex and costly for the Russian military. Meanwhile, the Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said on Wednesday that the EU moves to add what he called exemptions to its price cap on oil products showed that Russian oil was still in demand. Again, those reports come from Reuters. Russia has demanded that the EU embassy in Moscow stop spreading what Moscow regards as, quote, fake news regarding its military operation in Ukraine, and has threatened to expel U.S. diplomats. Those coming from reporters today. The original report was from that Russian TASS news agency. Switching back over to we'll go to our main screen here. I have a article here coming from the BBC. Talks about the preparation of a Russian offensive in eastern Ukraine. Says here, tens of thousands of Russians are being sent to eastern Ukraine as part of an offensive planned after the 15th of February, according to the Ukrainian governor of the Luhansk region. Quote, we are seeing more and more reserves being deployed in our direction, said Serhiy Hadai, who expected a 3-pronged Russian advance. Ukraine has warned repeatedly of an imminent offensive in Ukraine, but there is widespread skepticism of significant Russian success. The UK's Defense Intelligence Briefing said Russia's aims was almost certainly to capture parts of Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region that were not already under occupation. But the UK said, quote, it remains unlikely that Russia can build up forces needed to substantially affect the outcome of the war in the coming weeks. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said 7 Ukrainian towns had been liberated in recent weeks, and operations were progressing with success in 2 more, Bakhmut and Volodar. We have heard reports over the course of the week that the Russians have been making some slight progress in Bakhmut, but again, that comes with some skepticism. For 6 months, Russian mercenaries, now joined by regular troops, have tried to capture Bakhmut, a small city with a pre-war population of 70,000 citizens. Now a Ukrainian commander, Denis Yorvoslavsky, said only 2,000 civilians remain, and Russian forces have captured parts of the east and north of the city and continue to move forward in those areas. I had a, where is that here? We have our defense intelligence update. So today I'm not going to be doing the community aggregated reports in the live chat. Instead, I have selected a few to pick out here, and we will just go over those. First, it comes from Kayuka with the Ministry of Defense Defense Intelligence update on the situation in Ukraine for the 8th of February. It says here, since Russia withdrew its forces from the west bank of the Dnipro in November 2022, skirmishing and reconnaissance has continued on the complex network of islands and waterways which make up the Dnipro Delta. Russian forces have almost certainly used small boats to try to main a presence on key islands in that area. Ukraine has successfully deployed long-range artillery to neutralize Russian outposts a number of times. Both sides have likely also deployed small groups of Kinburn split, which commands small groups on the Kinburn split, which commands the Dnipro Gulf. Both sides are likely aiming to maintain a presence in these areas to control maritime access to the strategically important river and to provide warning of any attempt by their adversaries to launch a major assault across the river. It is highly unlikely that Russia will attempt an assault crossing the Dnipro. It would likely be extremely complex and costly, they add. Our next post here, coming from Ukrainska Pravda, says Ukraine to start preparing personnel for Crimea here. This comes from Irina Vereshchuk, Deputy Prime Minister, who announced that Ukrainian departments will start preparing a staff reserve for Crimea very soon. A source here, again, coming from the Deputy Prime Minister. The quote saying, the prospect of the liberation of Crimea shows that it is necessary to start training personnel for Crimea right now. Law enforcement agencies, justice workers, educators, and other civil servants in the near future, the relevant departments will be instructed to prepare a personnel reserve for Crimea. Some details here. The meeting was attended by representatives of the power bloc, Tamelia Teshev, permanent representative of the president in Crimea, as well as a few other officials as well. So again, they are getting some official groundwork in place here to create a reserve to possibly take on Crimea, to take back, I should say, Crimea here in the coming months, perhaps. Tony Wilson, thank you so much for tuning in today. Says midday Nemico, we spoiled today. Indeed we are. Again, I'm doing an early report today, and again, this is kind of a shortened report as well. We're trying to get it condensed down within an hour here, so we'll see if we'll be able to do that. Moving on from Ukraine, so that again caps off the Ukraine news today. I guess really quickly I could show you guys, talk a little bit about the situation here on the battle maps just to get everybody updated. And I guess I can go through live UA map for the 12-hour updates as well. So again, I'm getting ahead of myself here. But heading back to our deep state map again, Bakhmut is not officially under Russian control yet. There have been reports that Russia is making some gains in the area. There were conflicting reports, saying that Russia was taking Bakhmut over the week. But again, fighting is still ongoing in Bakhmut. Very intense fighting, I should add. Probably the most intense that we've seen in the war so far in Bakhmut. The city itself is absolutely destroyed. The Russians, they look to kind of perform a pincer movement here as they encircle the city of Bakhmut. Again, they are making some slow and grinding progress, but at great cost. They are losing hundreds of soldiers a day. No doubt Ukraine is also losing troops as well, but nowhere in comparison to the numbers that we've seen of loss from the Russian forces. So again, the Eastern Frontier is continuing to be some of the most active fighting, right up from Luhansk all the way down to the Donetsk region here. It's all pretty intense fighting in these areas here, mostly with Russian troops, but there are some PMC, some private military corporations, namely the Wagner Group, which are operating in these areas. The south of the country, it's been mostly stagnant. As you can see, there's no Russian force movements in these areas, but I should say there has been clashes here along the south by the Dnieper River, as I spoke about earlier on the show, so it's not completely stagnant down here in the south of the country. We have seen some signs of activity in the north along Belarus, as I've reported in recent weeks, but there hasn't been any real new news to report in that area. It's mostly just Russian training and staging up here in Belarus, as we talked about on earlier reports. That's mostly to occupy Ukrainian forces. They see Russian staging troops in the north here. That means they need to draw away troops from the east and stage them here in the north, just in case the possibility of a Russian advance from the north. Which again, over the past few weeks, we've gone from saying is likely to unlikely to likely again. I would say that again, the idea of a Russian advance from the north is I would say leaning towards unlikely, but also it is a possibility. However, at this time, it doesn't seem like that is going to occur. It seems more likely that a renewed offensive in the east of the country and possibly in the south of the country is more likely. Heading over to our universal awareness map, we'll take a look at everything that is occurring in Ukraine over the past 12 hours or so here. Actually, to skip over, again, we have a lot of reports coming from the General Staff of the Armed Forces here. I'll start here at 10 hours ago. One person killed, another wounded as a result of Russian shelling in Vovchansk. You see where that's located here. That's up in the, actually, that's kind of I think that's north of Bakhmut, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's in the north of the country. That's not too far from Kharkiv. So that is, again, along that northern border there that we're seeing some shelling occurring. 7 hours ago, air defense shot down a drone over to the Dnipro-Petrovisk region. You can see a picture here on screen of that drone being shot down. We have a lot of updates, again, coming from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. At Bakhmut direction, Army shelled the Sperny and many other regions there. At Kupiansk and Liman directions, Russian Army has shelled. 7 hours ago, at the Severshina and Slobozhina, again, kind of a mouthful there, directions, Russian Army shelled. A lot of other reports of shelling as well in those regions. Russian Army focused on an offensive operations near Crimea, Bakhmut, Dvidka, and quite a few other regions as well. This all comes from 7 hours ago, keeping in mind. At Kherson direction, the Russian Army shelled some regions as well. That's down in the south. You can see where those are listed on the map there. Moving up from that, at Zaporizhia, we see that there has been quite a few reports of Russian Army shelling in that area as well. 7 hours ago at Edvidka and Novopolivka directions, we have quite a few shellings that have occurred as well in those areas. 7 hours ago, a plane carrying President Vladimir Zelensky has landed in London. According to media reports, he will be received by the UK's King Charles III today. We have a picture here on screen of that plane landing, as well as a video here to show you.
Good to see you this morning. Got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thank you.
So you can see that is his plane there landing in London. 7 hours ago, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak welcomes the welcome to Ukraine President Zelensky. So you can see him there welcoming Zelensky to the country once he landed. In fact, you can see the plane we just saw right there in the background. That's right as he stepped off the plane there. 6 hours ago, Russian artillery hit residential apartment block in New York, Donetsk region. Not to be confused with the New York from the United States. Again, this is in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. 3 hours ago, the UK government sanctioned Russia's Zala Aero, the manufacturer of Lancet, KUB, and Zala drones. 3 hours ago, a Russian jet launched 2 missiles at the Semnivka village in Cherniv region. 1 person wounded and 3 under rubble at this time in that region. So again, that's in the north of the country as well, not too far from Cherniv. So again, the north of the country is still active. It is still a highly dangerous zone as shelling occurs, as air attacks occur almost on a daily basis. 2 hours ago, French President Macron will host Ukraine's President Zelensky in Paris tonight. After his trip to the UK, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is attending the meeting. So that about sums up our Ukraine reports. I'm now going to switch over and talk about a few other subjects here. For those of you that tuned in earlier this week, you will know that a Chinese spy balloon was first spotted over the continental United States and subsequently shot down as it moved over the east coast of the United States and over the ocean is where they shot it down. But for those of you that tuned in to all of our live reports that we did on the spy balloon, on the Chinese spy balloon, I thank you guys so much for stopping by for those. We had a great time. I called it Thursday and Friday night balloon mania when it occurred. Before I get into this post here, I'll show you guys the footage here. We have some footage of that Chinese spy balloon being shot down. This is some upscaled footage that somebody had shot. Let's take a look at that. So you can see here the balloon flying along, and then again that missile striking the balloon. For those of you that don't know, the missile was shot down by a F-22 Raptor, a U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor, with a AIM-9Q Sidewinder air-to-air missile. It's the first confirmed kill for the F-22 Raptor. Was that Chinese spy balloon? Later, the U.S. Coast Guard as well as Navy recovered the spy balloon in the waters off of the United States. It says here, U.S. Navy sailors assigned to explosive ordnance disposal, Group 2, recover a high-altitude surveillance balloon off the coast of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You can see here pictures on screen of them recovering that balloon debris out of the water. This was not the only vessel that was involved in the recovery. There were many different vessels that were involved in the recovery of that balloon. You can see them here pulling it out of the water. This article here, coming from the U.S. Department of Defense, directly from defense.gov, talks about the spy balloon here. It says here, President Joe Biden ordered the action on Wednesday to shoot down the balloon, but it was delayed until the balloon was over the water of the coast of South Carolina to ensure no Americans on the ground were harmed. Quote, the balloon was being used by the PRC, aka the People's Republic of China, in an attempt to surveil strategic sites in the continental United States. It was brought down above U.S. territorial waters, said Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. The action was taken in coordination and support of the Canadian government. Quote, we thank Canada for its contribution to tracking and analysis of the balloon through North American Aerospace Defense Command as it transited North America, Austin said. Quote, today's deliberate and lawful action demonstrates that President Biden and his national security team will always put the safety and security of the American people first while responding effectively to the PRC's unacceptable violation of our sovereignty, Austin said, referring to the People's Republic of China. U.S. officials first detected the balloon and its payload on January 28th when it entered U.S. airspace near the Aleutian Islands. The balloon traversed Alaska, Canada, and re-entered U.S. airspace over Idaho. We originally thought that was Montana. President Biden asked the military to present options on Wednesday, President Biden gave his authorization to take down the Chinese surveillance balloon as soon as the mission could be accomplished without undue risk to civilians under the balloon's path. An F-22 Raptor fighter from the 1st Fighter Wing at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, fired one AIM-9X Sidewinder missile at the balloon. The balloon fell approximately 6 miles off the coast in about 47 feet of water. No one was hurt in the downing of the balloon. Long before the shoot down, U.S. officials took steps to protect against the balloon's collection of sensitive information, mitigating its intelligence value to the Chinese. The senior defense official said the recovery of the balloon will enable U.S. analysts to examine sensitive Chinese equipment. I would also note that while we took all necessary steps to protect against the PRC surveillance balloon, a collection of sensitive information the surveillance balloon's overflight of the U.S. territory was of intelligence value to us. The official said, I can't go into more detail, but we were able to study and scrutinize the balloon and its equipment, which has been valuable. I will also add that the U.S. was actively deploying countermeasures against the balloon, against its ability to communicate with Chinese satellites. And so a lot of people have said, it flew over the U.S. Whatever data China wanted, they've already got. Well, that's not true. They did deploy countermeasures against the balloon's ability to communicate. They also, from what the Pentagon said earlier in the week, they did deploy visual obstruction so that the balloon was unable to take pictures of sensitive sites and sensitive equipment at different bases and sensitive military sites across the United States. Another post here coming from CNN talks about the U.S. intelligence officials believe that the recently recovered Chinese spy balloon is part of an extensive surveillance program ran by the Chinese military, according to multiple American officials familiar with the intelligence. The surveillance program, which includes a number of similar balloons, is in part run out of the small Chinese province of Hainan. Officials tell CNN. The U.S. does not know the precise size of the fleet of Chinese surveillance balloons, but sources tell CNN that the program has conducted at least 24 missions over at least five continents in recent years. Roughly half a dozen of those flights have been within U.S. airspace, although not necessarily over U.S. territory, according to one official familiar with the intelligence. And not all of the balloons sighted around the globe have been exactly the same model as the one shot down off the coast of South Carolina on Saturday. That official and other source familiar with the intelligence said there are multiple variations of these balloons. I will also add that there was another balloon, same time as the balloon over the U.S., there was another balloon spotted over Latin America, as well as various reports of other balloons spotted in different areas of the globe. It's hard to get concrete information on those individual balloons, and if they were indeed Chinese spy balloons. However, the Pentagon did come out with a statement saying that the one over Latin America was indeed a Chinese spy balloon. Uktin Atsila in the live chat mentions that I guess that Sidewinder didn't have ordnance; it was only a kinetic hit. That's very interesting. I'd also heard reports of that as well. I don't think I heard anything official though from the Pentagon or from the U.S. Defense Department. So I guess I forgot to unmute the mic there for a second. Thank you so much, Speedy Squirrel, for the super chat there, letting me know. So as I was saying here, I was reading this article here. U.S. firms, in Taiwan are making contingency plans amid China tensions. Taipei from February 7th said almost half of companies surveyed by American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan are revising or plan to revise their business continuity plans amid tensions with China, while a growing number reported being impacted by those strains. China, which views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, has been stepping up military drills across the Taiwan Strait since the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei in August. In a survey released on Tuesday, which took place between November 15th and December 16th, Taiwan said 33% of respondents said their operations had been significantly disrupted by the increase in tensions, compared with only 17% when it did a flash survey back in August, right after China began its war games. Again, that came right after Nancy Pelosi had visited Taiwan. I will add that in recent weeks here, China has dramatically stepped up its drills and incursions off the coast of Taiwan. They've been flying both aircraft and sailing vessels into Taiwan's air defense identification zones, as well as their territorial waters. What's different is in the past week or two, we've seen those numbers dramatically increase. So it's gone from, every day they'd send over a few aircraft or a few Navy vessels to now we're looking at dozens of vessels, dozens of aircraft that are heading into these areas around Taiwan. They're getting closer to Taiwan. They're probing different areas of Taiwan's territorial waters, and again, probing different areas of their air identification defense zones. Some other Taiwan news here. Here's images. So we have some video to show you of a Chinese balloon hovering over Taiwan. CNN obtained images of Chinese spy balloons recently shot down in the use hovering over Taiwan in recent months. China has long vowed to, quote, reunify the democratic island with the communist country's mainland. We talked about that many times before. We can go ahead here and I'll show you this video here. Again, this is an image of
this Chinese propaganda video.
This is, again, they're going to show images of those Chinese balloons being flown over Taiwan airspace. Let's take a look here.
Days ago, during the Lantern Festival, shows the military muscle of China's People's Liberation Army. The PLA promising to reunite with Taiwan, planning to build a bullet train across the Taiwan Strait, pledging to take control of this island of almost 24 million, bringing the self-governing democracy under communist control. One of the Chinese military's tools, high-altitude balloons. They've been testing them for years, as this 2018 video shows. The U.S. shot down this suspected.
One thing I should add is the balloon that they just showed in that clip is nowhere near the size and scale of the spy balloon which we shot down off the coast.
Chinese spy balloon last week. Beijing calls it a civilian weather balloon. They gave the same explanation to CNN on Monday for a second balloon over Latin America. CNN obtained images of similar Chinese balloons hovering over Taiwan in recent months, including this one on New Year's Eve, and this one a few months earlier. At least 4 balloon sightings in the last 2 years, says Su Zuyun, director of Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research. He says the island's relatively small size, about the same as the state of Florida, gives Taiwan's military limited time to intercept balloons or even shoot them down.
So there you have it. Really quickly, want to say hi to Mehmet in the live chat. Don't worry, Mehmet, we're getting to the news on Turkey here in just a moment. I have one more post here about Taiwan. It says here, Taiwan is deploying cheap mine layers and their mines with U.S. help to target expensive Chinese warships. It says here, Taiwan is buying mines directly from the U.S. Reportedly, there have been, again, this is talking about This lesson has led to an argument that should China decide to invade Taiwan, the landing of its forces on the island can be thwarted or delayed by successfully pre-placed mines in the Strait of Taiwan. It says here, incidentally, Taiwan is purchasing volcano mines from the United States. It is also buying M977A4 HEMTT 10-ton cargo trucks worth $180 million that the mine deployment system will be mounted on. These are anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. The volcano mine system can deploy 960 anti-personnel and anti-tank mines in an area of 1,100 meters long by 120 meters wide, and it can also be deployed by truck or helicopter. The prime contractors for the sale are Northrop Grumman and Oshkosh Corporation, the manufacturers of munitions and trucks. Again, this article is talking about them basically not only buying these mine systems from the U.S., but also the mines themselves. And I could expect that in the coming months we may start to see Taiwan start to receive some of this equipment and possibly even start to deploy equipment in certain areas. I would also argue that we may eventually start to see naval mines being placed around certain areas of Taiwan's territorial waters, as I've heard rumors of in recent weeks here. That could be a possibility here in the coming months here. Moving on to some other news. Earlier this week, a major catastrophic earthquake hit both Turkey and Syria. It has caused so far over 11,000 deaths have been reported, with more expected to be reported. Mehmet himself mentioned earlier this week that he had lost some friends and family in Turkey. Our hearts go out to not only Mehmet, but everybody that has experienced loss of life, loss of family members and friends in Turkey and Syria. It says here more than 11,000 people have been killed and thousands injured by a huge earthquake which struck the southeastern Turkey near the Syrian border in the early hours of Monday morning. Why was it so deadly? The first earthquake was big. It registered nearly 7.8 magnitude, classified as a major on the official magnitude scale. It broke along the 100-kilometer, 62 miles of fault line, causing serious damage to buildings near the fault. You can see here on screen a map of where the both first 7.8 quake and the second 7.5 quake occurred. Many aftershocks came in the hours and days after the quake, which continued to damage infrastructure and cause deaths and injuries there in Turkey. Professor Joanna Farr Walker, head of the Institute of Risk and Disaster Re-Education at University College of London, said, quote, "Of the deadliest earthquakes in any given year, only 2 in the last 10 years have been equivalent of magnitude of the one in Turkey and 4 in the previous 10 years. But it's not only the power of the tremor that causes devastation. This incident occurred in the early hours of morning when people were inside sleeping. The sturdiness of buildings is also a factor in Turkey. Dr. Carmen Solana, reader in volcanology and risk communication at the University of Portsmouth, says the resistant infrastructure is unfortunately patchy in South Turkey and especially Syria, so saving lives now most relies on response. The next 24 hours are crucial to find survivors. After 48 hours, the number of survivors decreases enormously." This was a region where there had not been a major earthquake for more than 200 years or any warning signs, so the level of preparedness would be less than for a region which was more used to dealing with these tremors. This comes as we've seen other earthquakes in recent weeks in the Middle East. Just a week ago, we saw one in Iran that was quite major. That came the same night that we saw those drone attacks by Israel on Iranian military infrastructure. So there's been many earthquakes in the Middle East over the past week. Some say, I've heard rumors saying, that there's connection between some of the activity here, some of the seismic activity here in the Middle East. There was also I think hours after the earthquake in Turkey, there was I think a 3.4 magnitude in Buffalo, New York, all the way over here in the United States. So the whole globe experiencing kind of a a run of seismic activity here in recent days. I have some live updates to give you guys here on the situation in Turkey. The World Health Organization is deploying medical teams in three flights of supplies to Turkey and Syria in a race against time. The World Health Organization is sending medical teams, 3 flights of medical supplies, including surgical trauma kits, to Turkey and Syria following the devastating earthquake this week. A, quote, high-level delegation is also on the way to the region to help coordinate the World Health Organization's response, it had said. The agency is sending $3 million to help support the emergency response and is working with partners to provide specialized medical care, according to WHO Director General Tedros. Another update here says UN says a road leading to only humanitarian aid corridor between Turkey and Syria is now accessible. The road leading to the only humanitarian aid border crossing between Turkey and Syria is now accessible after it was damaged by Monday's earthquake, a United Nations official told CNN Wednesday. It says here in another report, it is not possible to be prepared for such a disaster, Turkey's Erdogan says about shortcomings in the quake response. Quote here says, of course, there are shortcomings. The conditions are obvious. It is not possible to be prepared for such a disaster. We will not leave any of our citizens uncared for, said Erdogan. Syrian government says it provided more than 100 shelters equipped with aid supplies for earthquake survivors. The Syrian government says it has set up more than 100 shelters equipped with aid supplies for those affected by the earthquake across government-controlled areas, including the cities of Aleppo, Hama, Homs, Tartus, and Latakia. A coastal city which has the highest number of deaths and more than 100 collapsed buildings in that area. Quote here saying, a disaster of this magnitude puts additional pressure on the health sector, which suffers from a shortage of medical requirements and medical materials due to sanctions imposed on Syria. So, speaking of aid for Turkey, Mehmet here sent me over again a platform which is raising donations to help those affected in Turkey. It's the Hapab. Again, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, so apologies. Organization here. They are generating donations. They're collecting donations here for those affected by these earthquakes in Turkey. You can see here some donation links and addresses here. Where funds can be sent for those affected by the earthquakes in Turkey. You could find those posted by Mehmet over on the Discord. I will also be putting a post up for these in the Discord server. This is their official website here, which Mehmet shared with me earlier and requested that I do a shout out here for on the live stream tonight because they do need all the help they can get in Turkey. This is again the ABOP, I'm not sure again if I'm pronouncing that correctly, support webpage. That's ahbap.org, where you can donate to help those affected by the earthquake in both Turkey and Syria. Both of those countries are unfortunately affected by this horrible, catastrophic event that has occurred there. Mother Saki said in the live chat on Twitch, she said, I put a link for Mehmet's fundraiser to help his family in the Situation Room for anyone who wants to help. Thank you so much, Mother Saki. That means a lot. And again, they need all the help they can get over there in Turkey. Moving on from the earthquakes in Turkey, we have some news here. Earlier this week, actually it was about I think either the day before last, a rail car, multiple rail cars, I should say, a train. Actually, really quickly before we do that, Tony Wilson asked, will you put a link in the comments? Yes, I can do that actually real quick. Sorry, guys. I will do that right now. One moment here. I'm going to take that link, guys, where you can donate to Ukraine, and I'm going to put that in the live chat here. Bear with me. I just posted that in the live chat, guys. That's where you can donate to Ukraine. Again, they can use all the help that they can get. Also, I will also, there's a direct link to where you can donate to Mehmet, which will go to help his family, which has been affected by the events in Turkey. I'm also posting that in the live chat as well, guys. That second link I posted there, that's where you can donate directly to Mehmet to help his family and friends who have been, who have experienced loss from this event in Turkey. Again, back to the train derailment in Ohio. A crews released toxic chemicals into the air from 5 derailed tanker cars that were in danger of exploding Monday and began burning it after warning residents near Ohio-Pennsylvania state line to leave immediately or face a possibility of death. The flames and black smoke billowed high to the sky from the derailment site late in the afternoon, about an hour after authorities said that the controlled release would begin. The slow release of vinyl chloride from the 5 rail cars into a trough, a trench really is what it was, that was then ignited, creating a large plume above the village of East Palestine, but authorities said they were closely monitoring the air quality. Sorry about the delay there. Again, it says here, thus far, no concerning readings have been detected, says Pennsylvania Governor John Shapiro. He said at a brief evening news conference about 3 hours after the venting and burning procedure had began. However, he urged Pennsylvania residents within a 2-mile radius of the derailment site to shelter in place and keep their doors and windows closed. Originally, they had evacuated they evacuated, I think, a 1 or 2 mile radius around the site where this occurred. You can see some images here from that derailment, again, showing kind of the fallout pattern here from, again, those chemicals being burnt off. For those of you that watch the live stream, you'll know that in here, again, the National Guard was called in as well. This is a very big deal. They were going door to door, and they issued mandatory evacuations in the area for about a mile, I believe, around where this derailment occurred. The chemicals contained within these trail cars were extremely toxic, cancer-causing. Not only that, but when they are burned, they release, from what I heard, they release things like phosgene, chlorine gas, and other volatile chemicals. So this is a ongoing situation. I believe people have still not been able to return to their homes in and around this area. You can see some aerial photos here on screen of that derailment here, which again, this is a major disaster again, which has occurred here in Ohio. And the cleanup again is probably going to last into the weeks, if not months, from this disaster here. No doubt we'll see widespread contamination of the environment from this disaster here that has occurred. Again, here you can see some video talking about that they did issue evacuations in the area around where this derailment occurred. An updated post here saying, while derailed Ohio train cars with toxic chemicals are no longer burning, officials say that they need more air quality data to lift evacuations in that area. You can see some hazmat guys here doing their thing. While the flames that tore through the 5 cars of derailed train that were carrying a potentially explosive chemical have died out in East Palestine, Ohio, officials say more data is needed on the area's air and water quality to lift evacuation orders. After Monday's release and burn of a toxic chemical from the derailed train cars, authorities said they turned their attention to making sure that the air within the evacuation zone is safe for residents. As part of that process, crews will be going into homes and businesses and collecting samples, said General John Harris with the Ohio National Guard. Quote from that saying, "We are referencing subject matter experts to give us that data, what safe limits are in order to get these people home." Again, that about sums up our reports for this week's weekly report. Again, thank you so much for everybody that is tuning in this evening, for everybody that is joining us in the live chats, both on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I'll now be taking a few questions and comments here we'll be doing our Q&A, guys. So go ahead and you can post your questions, your comments in the live chat here, and I will go ahead and start to read those off. Just give me one moment here. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm a little sick this week, so apologies for the brief delays at some points. Mehmet, thank you so much for tuning in tonight on the live chat. He said, "Thank you, bro. Thank you so much, Mehmet, for being here and hanging out with us. I hope your family and friends get all the help that they need. I hope that the people of Turkey can recover swiftly from this monumental crisis which has occurred there due to this earthquake." Patty Wack, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, keeping everybody sane over there in the live chat. Miss Tiger Eye, glad to see you as well. Tony Wilson. Thank you so much for stopping by. Speedy Squirrels says Ohio always having something weird happening. That's true. I lived in Ohio for a little while, for a few months back in the day when I was a kid, and it was a wacky state to live in. Let me tell you. Um, uh, uh, it is very unfortunate that this train derailed there. A lot of people's lives have been affected now from this chemical spill that has occurred there in Ukraine. Twixtro, thank you for tuning in. He says, "Imagine dying in your sleep. We should be thankful because tomorrow is not promised." That is very true, Twixtro. It is very unfortunate that the earthquake in Turkey had to happen at the time it did. As I said earlier, it did happen in the middle of the early hours of the morning when a lot of people were asleep, and so a lot of people were crushed to death in their homes from collapsing buildings. It's extremely unfortunate. Again, that's a 7.8 magnitude earthquake that occurred there. That is huge. And again, as of this time, it's reported that around 11,000 people have been killed, but that number is expected to increase drastically as they continue to pull people out of the rubble. Twixer asked if they're buying from the U.S. I believe he was referring to the mines from Taiwan. Yes, they are buying that equipment from the U.S. Yeah, again, I'd just like to apologize for the for the brief interruption in our audio that we had this evening. As again, I'm kind of we're trying to rush this report a little bit out to you guys today. We did have it was a little bit of an earlier report. Again, we usually come at you guys around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, we came at you around 12 noon, and I'm trying to condense it into an hour today. So we skipped a couple things that we usually would do, but I'll make up for it with next week's Wednesday report for sure. Patty Wax says the train derailment was crazy scary, turned the sky black that day. Yeah, for all of those that tuned in to the stream that day, or not my stream, but if you watched any of the live streams of that event, you'll know that it literally turned this entire sky black for miles. It looked like, I heard the reporters saying, I heard the reporters saying that it was supposed to, like, sunset was at a certain time, and that it had already gotten dark because of how black the sky was from that smoke. It kind of pooled, it settled in the atmosphere and created kind of like a blanket across the sky, which basically blocked out the sun. And it was very eerie looking watching the skies get dark from that fire from that smoke that was pluming from that train derailment. Dirk Matthews, thank you so much for tuning in. Says you should interview someone on your live stream. I'm actually planning to do an interview with Mehmet. I don't know if we'll get to it next week. I'm hoping to possibly do it next week. I also have been looking into getting some other interviews of people from Ukraine, as well as Taiwan as well. So again, I'm planning to do that in the coming weeks here. We'll definitely be getting some interviews in. Hugo says, hello, Nemico. Good to hear from you, man. Good to hear from you, Hugo. As always, it's great to see returning viewers tuning back in to the live stream. Again, this is a little bit of a speedy report this week. And again, we have it condensed down some stuff. Also, I'm a little sick, so dealing with that as well. So it's not the best report, but I'm glad we were able to at least get this information out to you guys. I'll probably cover some of these topics a little bit further in next week's report, things like the earthquake, the balloon, etc. So make sure to tune in for that. That's, again, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do those weekly reports every week. Michael Thompson, thanks so much for tuning in today, since I live 30 minutes away from the East. That about concludes our Q&A for today, as I am getting past my time limit here. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today for this very short and impromptu early weekly report. Harry South asks, is there a stream schedule? Is it just weekly streams? So for the schedule, it is every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we do the weekly live reports, which are usually about 2 hours long, sometimes getting up into the 3-hour mark. I go live randomly when there's breaking news. So like for the Chinese balloon, we did a couple live streams for the Chinese balloon. I also I usually have up a 24/7 Intel stream for the Ukraine war and for the Taiwan situation, which monitors data, open source intelligence data coming out of those areas. It also shows cameras. However, this week I did not have those up. I will be getting those up later this evening. And then videos are posted on a weekly basis, as well as shorts over on the YouTube channel. Human Scourge says, great job the past few weeks. Nemico, your coverage of the Balloon Gate was exceptional. Thank you so much, Human Scourge, for that as well. I'm glad to have you tuning in. To everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to comment. Make sure to share this stream. I will be uploading this as a video to our YouTube channel right after it's done live. So if you missed the whole report, as always, you can always catch it as a video. And then we'll also be uploading our condensed version of this live report probably later today when I get a chance to. It might have to be later this evening. For all of you that tuned in on Twitch, thank you so much for following along, for hitting that follow button. To everybody that's subscribed over there on Twitch, thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. My Twitch community, you guys are great. If you haven't already joined the Discord server, there's a link to that in the description below. You can find all the latest information over there on the Discord server, get up-to-date real-time information on the war in Ukraine, as well as many other global security events. We didn't do a live chat poll this week, but I will be doing one next week as well. I'd like to give a quick shout out and thank you to everybody that donated to the Sign My Rocket fundraiser. We're currently waiting on the funds to process from YouTube. Once we get all that stuff in, I'll be sending that out to Sign My Rocket, and then hopefully we'll get that footage of our artillery shell at some point here in the coming week. So again, big thank you to everybody that helped out with that. To everybody that submitted a super chat for tonight's stream, thank you guys so much for those. I highly appreciate the support. I know this is a little bit of a smaller stream today. Again, kind of coming at you guys early, so not everybody had time to prepare for that. Not everybody was able to join us for today's stream, but I'll be making up for it next Wednesday for that stream. I think that about sums it up. Keep in mind, I will be uploading this as a video right after. So if you didn't watch the whole thing, you can check it out over there on the YouTube channel. As well as this version of the live. Oh wait, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, the Intel stream. Sorry, the Intel stream. The 24/7 Intel streams, cam streams will be back up later this evening. It might be way later tonight because I do have quite a busy day ahead of me here. But I'm going to try to get those back up for you guys. Speed Scroll said Taco Fund too. Yep, can't forget about the Taco Fund. Patty Whack, thank you so much. The account, aka Kayuka, said my report might be a bit late today as I still have to fix up the script, just so you know. Thank you so much, Kayuka, for doing those daily reports. For those of you that don't know, Kayuka, aka the account, he runs a YouTube channel. He's been a power poster on the Discord server since the beginning of the war. He's a great resource for information. He does a daily condensed, about a 8 to 10 minute report on the Ukraine war. I highly recommend you guys go check that out. Great source of information. I believe that's everything, guys. Until next time, guys, you are watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives, that will change history, that will change history, that will change history, that will change history.